Hi, I'm Matt from HockeyReviews.ca, and this is the CCM Eflex 6, where's that label? 581 Pro catching glove review. So this review and the whole set of CCM Eflex 6 stuff wouldn't have been possible without the help of Just Hockey. So make sure you check them out in the description. Follow them on Instagram and TikTok, links are in the description, as well as buy something from them. Tell them you're from Hockey Reviews, and letting me review their demo gear is greatly appreciated. Support me by supporting them and letting them know that these reviews are helpful. Now, before we begin all that, Core Tech, which are Core shorts, and people have heard of these before, they were labeled under Under Armour before. Now Bauer sells hockey specific one, but Core themselves sell their own line of pants and supportive clothing and apparel. Basically, this stuff helps you with growing strains, growing pulls, and helps keep your hips tight and everything like that. And speaking of injuries, I kind of pulled a growing playing in the playoffs a few months ago and have had to keep using these Core Tech shorts to make sure my growing doesn't get worse. When I don't wear them, I can feel it and it hurts kind of to walk the next day. With these, keeps everything nice and tight and keeps everything from stretching out too far and getting injured. So these have been a huge savior for me. Check out the link in the description to their website and use my coupon code that's in there to get a discount, and I'll put it on the screen here. It helps support myself and the channel so I can make content and doing real reviews, but also you get a solid product that I use all the time and basically am needed in order to keep my growing from falling apart. Otherwise, if you want to support the channel without buying anything, check out the links in the description to Patreon and buy me a coffee. Everything through those links always comes back into the channel so I can keep making more content and doing more reviews. So this is a very interesting glove, and we already did the review of the blocker. This is kind of crazy, and a quick overview of this glove. CCM has made two very weird gloves recently. 591, I think it came on the Axis 2, and the 581, which is this, which replaces the 600. Eflex was always a 600 line. Famously, CCM 600 brakes have been awful off the shelf. People always complain about them, they can't close. I had to do a video specifically showing how I had to break the foams basically right here with a hockey stick after heating it up to get it to close properly, and then it became really good. 600 brake gloves have kind of been going away, and people are always buying 580s for some strange reason. This is a new version of it. This is CCM's take on it, so they're trying some crazy things on here and making an interesting glove, and I'll show you all the features off first, and then I'll talk about, like, I did a 100 puck challenge on this, sort of talk about that, and we'll kind of talk about the performance and stuff like that on it. But first and most importantly, we are going to talk about the graphics. I am meh on this set of graphics just because I talked about this on the blocker and the pads as well, but we're going to cover it here really quickly. I don't like how you can't split this graphic up at all. It always goes in one direction, and it kind of shows off better on the blocker than it does the glove. Let's switch these because this is kind of bothering me. Everything kind of goes there, and you can't kind of ever break it up. With that said, you can make some very clean looks, and in their catalog, when Demko wore this set for the Canucks, there were some very clean graphics where it's just like a couple colors here, or like all navy, red, and then white for the Team USA goalie. I like those clean graphics, but at the same time, I don't like how you can't ever split it up and do anything separate with it. It's just, no matter what you do for colors, it's kind of always going to be in a line. That's kind of disappointing to me. I do think these kind of graphic pieces, like the printed stuff, kind of look cool, and eventually you'll get the whole crazy printed 3D graphics on here we've seen the pros use, but like this kind of looks cool, but it's not really anything crazy special. And this, obviously, if you make these white, you can do like fades and stuff in here that makes it a little bit more interesting, but this is more the traditional choice by Just Hockey for this demo set. Obviously, these two also don't match. These are from two different sets. This one felt way more broken in than the other glove, so I used this one. I think it was baked a bunch of times to try to get it more broken in. And talking about this graphic, one last thing, I do love how it matches though. Like that piece goes to here, this goes to here, this goes to here in your position. So whether you hold it there, blocking position or whatever, these lines are lining up. Where CCM in the past had some very bad symmetry on here, where like this piece was like down here, and then like this piece was up here, and it was all just kind of a mess and never really worked out. This, you can definitely see where the graphics are coming from each of them, so it makes sense, and I like how they kept that symmetry going. Now on to the actual glove itself. So obviously this is like a 580 style of break, and they're super popular. Everyone swears by them, and yada yada. CCM is doing something pretty crazy on here, and they did it previously, which we'll cover pieces in here, which they did on the 591 that people didn't really like, so they updated on here. This glove is weird. Now, when I'm looking at this while filming this, looking straight down here, it just, like, the shape kind of just looks like a normal 580, especially when you kind of stretch it out. But when I was using it, it just never looked like a normal 580. And here is a 580 clone, and this thing just looks like a 580, and I've used a true 580, and this one never kind of just sat and really looked like it. At one specific angle where I'm kind of like this, it does look like it. So I realized when editing this video, I never actually talked about why the shape is a negative. Basically, they updated the 580 design to be slightly different, and the thing they kept is this massive cuff and tiny pocket, and the pocket honestly seems like it's smaller than what this is. Regardless, it's very close. And you have to remember, when you're a goalie and your hand is in the glove like this part is your cuff and your wrist, right? So really, this extra space is going to be covered by your chest protector more. So why do you want your cuff to be massive and flat like this when you can go with this, which is all pocket? And you can see the difference between pocket sizes on these gloves and kind of overall palm design. And while this isn't an NHL legal glove, the difference on this glove is basically this much of pocket tee. This company did change that. All they did was adjust that so it's slightly shorter, and now they're NHL legal. So that is the difference. This whole giant pocket, totally NHL legal. This size, totally NHL legal. Literally that much of a difference in this pocket. So instead of going there, it's slightly shallower and goes in, and it's NHL legal. So when I'm saying the shape of the 581 is kind of a negative, it's because it's taking a massive cuff and pretty big palm size and not updating it or changing it in any way. But you don't need this massive piece there and then a massive piece here without actually just being pocket. And again, fingers fit in here fine and everything. There's no issues with it. It just looks crazy. People hate it. But this updated 581 design isn't really making a difference and improving anything. It's kind of taking an already kind of outdated design and, well, kind of a traditional design, making it flatter in bad spots and not really giving you any more coverage or catching really area. Going on to the pieces of this glove that are kind of interesting. The backhand, well, we'll look right here where it is kind of a lot thinner, and you can't really see it here, but there is kind of a ghosting that says light core technology. Now, CCM did something really weird here and something I'm going to be critical of. There is no plastics in this cuff. As you can see, me bending the cuff. Now, they are saying that this glove is 15% lighter than other gloves. So we'll talk about balance a little bit later. Like, that's how you get rid of weight, is through removing plastics. Now, I don't know what is in here, if there's plastics in here, but it isn't here, and that's me bending this. So if a puck hits this over and over and over and over and over, this is going to eventually cause problems. You need something more sturdy there to take that impact so this foam doesn't eventually fold over and over and over. So I'm not a huge fan of that. And now CCM might say that they have done the testing to check this stuff out to make sure it works. My experience, if you don't have a hard edge here, and I've shown this with all of the pad reviews I've kind of done, and yes, pads, a lot of them don't have plastics in the thighs, but you have to use a like more dense foam than what this is to make it so it doesn't really move anywhere. Eventually those curve and not necessarily collapse, but they'll curve and they'll kind of really wear down over time. So I don't like getting rid of the plastic, and maybe that's the curmudgeon in me again and me being an old boomer. Now onto the strapping. It is super interesting and kind of different than what a lot of other companies are doing now. There is no elastic strap here, which is weird because every other company uses an elastic strap here now. So not there. As you can see, comes off. This whole piece comes off. Interesting backhand plate here. This, I don't understand the point of this. Obviously it's a cuff, right? But just the way it sits, it's like there, but it doesn't really ever do anything. Like, no matter what, this piece doesn't like have a purpose of being separated from here. I figured like, oh, okay, maybe it will bend back, but you can see it can't really bend back. And just to prove a point that if I make that tighter, you can see like that's never gonna bend back. So I don't understand why that's there. And if you want to open this up, you put it on the other side and not on the inside, so you really kind of flare that out. But interesting. Maybe it's a protection thing, but like even then, I don't think this is really useful in this whole case. It's weird anyways. I don't mind this whole backhand cuff. It is very different than what other companies are kind of doing, just like in how it's like all the way down here and everything. This piece is also kind of interesting where it has this one piece right here connected to here. We flop that open and you can open it up. Not a lot, to be honest, because this kind of just gets in the way and this part doesn't open up anymore and it just kind of sits there. This honestly reminds me of some Brian's designs, and it's okay, like you can open it like this, but you can't get in here, which is annoying because you can't really, like, that's how you air this out. So it's not, I guess, that bad, but it's not great because usually you kind of like flopping this over if you really want to air this out. So you can't go that whole way there. And then this big cuff back here with this piece right here opens up like this. and you have the inner strapping in here. So this is the Polygene on here. So this is like treated with the material, so it's supposed to be antibacterial, so it doesn't smell as bad. It's a nice liner material on here. CCM feels like this is like from the Tax line of gear. It's almost their old design, so interesting in that sense. But I like when they borrow stuff like Polygene from their player equipment. Their player equipment is fantastic, so borrowing stuff from there is, I think, a huge positive thing. And you see a very interesting strapping system in here. And this is where we get into CCM doing weird things. So this piece all is Velcroed in, so you can really tighten this and loosen this up. And you can really, like, you can't really take it out. Well, if you really want to take this out, you really could, but that's not the point of this. But you can adjust this, but adjusting it like is interesting and odd because of the way that this is curved. You can't really crank this. So when it's sitting there like that, you can't really crank it any tighter. You can kind of make it looser, but like, not really. It kind of just comes off because of how this is shaped, because this is like speed skin on there. So it's kind of odd in that sense. And this one, you do have a bit more give because it is a longer strap. So you can kind of do it like this, so it's really loose. So that piece does sit up there and it's legitimately loose, so that's fine. And then this one you can tighten. So this side totally makes sense. I don't understand really why this side's all Velcroed, but it's not a big deal. And it's just like, it is what it is. I liked to wear this a bit looser, so this just felt more free, but you can really crank that if you want to. And then this is a nice kind of quick release style strap to loosen this up as well. But it is kind of in a weird place because usually the quick release are down here, so you can really pull it. This you can't really get at because it will be covered. So it doesn't really act like a quick release strap or anything like that, just a normal nylon strap in there. Materials on these feel fantastic. This is their AX suede, which is super comfortable. Company's been using it for a while, so I love that in there. And then this is that nice kind of, you can see the material right there, really comfortable on the backhand and everything. Feels really nice. And then this has the option of sure grip on here, which I've gone over this over and over again. I love sure grip for gloves. They feel great to get a little extra texture, but I will say this again, just the texture on this is just like not textured enough compared to old sure grip that CCM used to have. Specifically the sure grip that True and the Fave still have, which is this material in here, and the textures on here, and it's specific, really evident like in there and where the palm is just more grippy and more textured than what is on the CCM stuff. So this one isn't the best. It's not awful, but it's just not quite as nice as that other line there. Now, continuing on interesting strapping choices, there is this little piece right here, which has this really awesome rubber tab. I love little rubber tabs like that. And this kind of can pull. This is your thumb loop. So instead of having a normal thumb loop, it now has a Velcro pull strap. And we've seen this from other companies before. And you can see how you can just put that in, and there's your thumb loop. So kind of interesting, that is how you adjust it. But we've seen that before. For example, we've seen that before, and it is right there. Now, the part that CCM upgraded, and I guess fixed since people were complaining about it, is finger loops. So on their 591, and I think this glove too, their whole thing is this whole foam mold to your fingers, and you don't need finger loops, and it will just mold to your hand and it will feel fantastic on your hand. Well, people complained that there weren't finger loops. So now there's sort of finger loops. You have this one right here and that one right there. So really you only have 2 out of 4 finger loops, and they can be adjusted for tightness through here, as you can see. And it can also be adjusted twice wise. So you can have this piece to be tighter or looser, and then this loop can be tighter or looser as well. So you can adjust those in 2 different ways there, so that is always nice. Same with on that side as well. But when we put this on and we put my fingers in there, it honestly doesn't feel like traditional finger straps still. And CCM obviously doesn't want to go the traditional route there. And this is kind of just from the complaints of people saying put finger stalls back in. Honestly, your hand can kind of just like slip in there pretty good without finger stalls. Again, I'm a huge fan of finger stalls. I like them in all my gloves. Gloves that didn't really have them all, I got them put in. This is kind of the case. I don't like how like my hand moves so much in here, even with these in there. You have these anchor points here and here, but you have nothing down here. So even if like when I'm closing, it doesn't feel like they're really anchored. It's like they're kind of all over the place, and I can feel them all over. Is it the biggest deal in the world? No, but it's a comfort thing that I honestly don't think needed to change. Maybe after this glove is used like 200 times or something, the inner foams in here will totally morph to your fingers and mold to your fingers, so they'll feel like they're in a memory foam mattress and not moving anywhere. But when I'm using this, it doesn't feel like that at all. My fingers are kind of slipping in there when I'm opening and closing this, and it's honestly just not the nicest feeling thing in the world. And even if I crank this, the fingers are still slipping. That's fine, but the fingertips are kind of slipping, and it just doesn't feel all that great, to be totally honest. So I'm kind of disappointed in that as well. I think this is kind of reinventing the wheel of stuff that doesn't need to be reinvented. Without those finger stalls, everyone complained about it, and then I heard a few kids basically be like, oh, this is so great, and then I put that 591 on, it felt awful. And this is definitely an improvement, but I still don't think it's there. I don't think you need to go this route, and it's not that great. Now, continuing on to this glove, you have like an open cuff right here, but you have a weird design in this case, because obviously this case stretches and everything like that, right? But the way it just sits flat, it just kind of gets in the way. And again, I have that massive chest protector with the Warrior Ritual X4. This was getting in the way. So when I was doing the test like this was getting in the way. If this was up more, it would have been way better to use. And I almost feel like this should have been anchored on the like other way. So this should have been anchored kind of from here, holding it up a bit to give you more of that wrist mobility instead of down here, because yes, it can flex this way. And if it's just like sitting here all the time, and it honestly feels like it sits like in itself a lot, it never really got out of the way and it was always hit. Now, if you go like that again, it flexes out of the way, but you're at a max extreme there, and it being there gets in the way, where if it was up a bit more, it would be a bit better for that mobility. Now on to closure of this glove, and I'll kind of show this off. But remember, this is a Pro Palm, so it's not the most broken in thing, but you can see it closes and opens pretty good. The thing is, it's just not that comfortable to do though. It's like, it always feels like it's all over the place. The T also is awful. Again, we talked about this on previous CCM 580s. That's awful. It should be closed. And I mean, 580s, you expect it kind of like this, but that should close. Now, you can clamp this to probably close it better, but that's just not great. Does that cause any issues with pucks in there? No, it's staying out, but it's still not like the greatest thing there, and you would expect that to be better. This basically feels, again, like this piece right here is too long. The plastic part only goes to right there, but it just feels like that piece is either too long or something, or part of this T is just like not fitting right, and there's too much in the middle, causing it out and not really allowing it to flex and do what it wants. Maybe this has to be shorter so it bends that way, so you would get like kind of like that thing, but it's just not great overall. And that honestly is the whole closure of this. As a comparison, and yes, this isn't a true 580 like a Lefebvre CCM, but it's a clone. Look at the closure on that. That thing closes, again, not totally closed, but you can definitely see that famous T-bend, and that feels more like a 580 to me. It has that kind of snap to it. And I talked about the true one before where it snaps. This one sort of snaps, but doesn't really close all the way, so it snaps like that. Now again, this could be broken in more and everything, but honestly, it feels like it's really just the design of the glove. And as a comparison, this one, you have the break kind of right here, and then it kind of just closes, right? This is kind of all rounded, all one piece. With this though, maybe this is just like a protection piece right here, but it really doesn't feel, as you can see, like it moving. The break is here for the moving, but it just doesn't, like this whole section doesn't really want to close as much when you're actually using it, as like you can kind of see, and it's not the greatest. I don't like how flat this piece is. And again, this one that we have here, more rounded, still a little bit flat, but this is like a big flat piece right here and just doesn't feel right. And even then, like I said, this, looking at this glove at this angle, the break, like the shape of it does look like a 580 here, but, and once again, you can kind of see like that flat kind of design right here where that whole palm kind of goes in there. But with just the way that this is, this, when you flatten it out, feels like it runs into the pocket, where this one feels like it's like just totally flat. And it's kind of something I noticed when using this glove for the 100 puck challenge was, and you really felt it to the point where I had to stop the 100 puck challenge. So we're kind of going into protection a bit here too, as well as like overall design. I only got up to about 65 miles an hour, which isn't fast. And I felt shots on here. Now, again, with a caveat of my puck machine isn't 100% accurate in terms of speed, I felt enough pucks in here at 65 that I never felt before, even in game ready gloves like the true game readies I've used in the past. It got to the point where I had multiple in a row that just hurt, and I had to like wait a second, where my producer said, no, like she's like, I'm not doing any more of these. I don't want to hurt your hand. This is a Pro Palm. That shouldn't be the case there. Obviously, anything on the palm, you're going to feel really hard shots. It's just the nature of how it is. There was enough surprising ones there that I was very surprised at it, disappointed enough where I stopped doing the test because of how bad that felt and hurt. Now, with that said, I did take this out on the ice with Junior B and Junior A players, and it didn't like scare me with them. I took enough shots with them. There was no like real rockets in that group. People I play with in some of my leagues shoot harder than they do. But I felt some shots, but it wasn't like bad enough where I swapped out the glove, which happened in a recent test I've been doing with them. So that wasn't an issue with them, but it was with the puck machine. So a bit weary with that. I still don't think I would have issues wearing this in terms of protection levels in my games and stuff like that. I think I'd be totally fine with it. Next, and I have a video of this on ice testing this, but it's puck seal and how like you can do this. Picking it up, no issue whatsoever. Even on the crappy tee, no issues. But puck seal, anytime you don't go full on pocket, it comes out of the pocket. So if we go right here, if we're like right on the weight here and here, it comes out back there. And then if we want full pocket to pull it out, we lose on heel. And then if we want to keep the heel in place, we lose on pocket. So you're kind of stuck no matter what. And this is like full weight down and you lose it. So just the shape of this, and I've had this issue with True Gloves as well as a 590. It doesn't seal the puck well at all, just because when it goes fully flat, you can kind of see no matter what. If you put weight on there, the heel comes up. If you put weight on the heel, the toe comes up. So just kind of the way it is. On to catching with this glove. It honestly just doesn't feel anything special whatsoever. I don't love 580s. They're not my favorite thing ever. I have this and it's okay, but it's not amazing. I see a lot of people swear by True Bauer Vapor 90, which is basically a True clone. This isn't a clone anymore. Well, this isn't a Lefebvre design anymore, because let's be real, CCMs, 580s and stuff were designed by Lefebvre. This is a whole CCM thing. And honestly, I didn't like it at all. And not even from like a personal preference thing, because when I use the True ones, I see the benefit of it, where like anything that hit that pocket of the True, it just snaps the glove shut itself. Didn't happen here. When I used the Game Ready 580 12.2 on the puck machine, the glove did a lot of catching by itself. Not experiencing that whatsoever with this glove at all. Kind of really disappointing in that sense, and kind of like, what's the point to me again of this whole glove? Because it's like, it's weird, and it didn't do all the things that the 580 I like. I don't like 580s, but 580s have a unique characteristics, and this didn't really do what they did. So really it retains like kind of the shape, but it's just kind of moving in a weird direction. On top of that, we're going to talk about weight, and CCM specifically says this is 15% lighter than other gloves that they've used before, and I believe them. There's no plastics up here, so that helps. But the important part about weight is the balance, and the balance on this glove is so pocket heavy and finger heavy that it is honestly one of the worst gloves I've used. As a comparison, since this is a 580 and this is a 581, if I hold this glove by the cuff right here, the weight of it feels right here. This feels super light. When I hold this glove by the cuff right here, the weight of it is all right here and all right here. So like, for example, if I go like that, look how easy it turns with me trying to hold this, and I go like this. And that's not me like faking this and trying to make this look worse than it is. This is just like so heavy on here. Sure, you can get 15% of the weight down. So if you move it away from your body, so it's like hanging off of you, it becomes way heavier. And let's be real, the weight is here, which is hanging off me, and the weight is down here, which is also hanging off me. The weight's up here, it's not really hanging off me, right? When I use this glove, I was the most tired using a catching glove in a long time. Like, amazed at how exhausted I was when using this. Whether it be in my brown chest that I use for all my puck challenge stuff, which I do that so it's fair for every glove, and I noticed it really bad because, well, one, the brown's heavy, but this made it 1,000 times worse. Using it on ice when I'm using the Warrior, which is super light, or that CCM NHL Pro, which is fine. I use it every other glove with it. This thing was so heavy. I was exhausted trying to catch things with it, and I was so slow trying to catch things with it. Balance is always something I always harp on, especially like ignoring weights. This is the perfect example of that. This thing should be light and feel great, but it's so tip heavy that weight savings go out the window and it makes it worse. Finally, we're going to talk about quality. Honestly, I don't really notice any bad quality things on this glove. There is speed skin on here, and I've gone over speed skin so many times now I'm not going to talk about it anymore. CCM materials always don't feel quite as nice as like True does in terms of their Gen Pro usage, but the quality of this glove felt fine. Didn't really noticing anything out of place or anything like that. But it has to be special, and like this glove is trying to be unique. Besides its shape, this glove isn't offering anything that really is, and in that, the shape is a negative too. So if you want that 580, you just go get the True one, or the Bauer Vapor 90, or the Vaughn 70 degree, which is kind of a 580, and ignore this because it's rough and it's not offering anything really that makes it way better. I get the tech that they're trying to do on here. It's just like a huge miss. And people cannot say to me that, oh, you're just an old curmudgeon that doesn't like trying new things. This is one of the best gloves I've ever used and is crazy. And people say I'm nuts for using it and that really it might be the future of gloves and it's me trying crazy new things. This thing is unreal. This thing is the exact opposite of something that I would ever be like, yeah, this is a good idea. I get CCM is trying to do something different ever since they broke with Lefebvre in designing their stuff. They did the 591, which I'm going to say 90% of feedback I've heard was awful, and I put it on and it felt awful. They did the 581, which I've used. It's awful, and all of the other 580s I've used have been way better and they're a more traditional design. And again, I don't care about traditional designs. If you make a good product that is way out there, like I was a huge fan of all the Bauer stuff when it first came out with Cortec and looked all crazy. If you do that, you're golden. I don't care. As long as the product works and does something better than what previous ones and things like that did, then it's all good. This, I don't know what's going on here. If this is a stepping stone and the 591 and the 581 are the growing pains into something amazing, maybe I'll forgive CCM for making those two gloves, but this glove specifically, because we're talking about it here. If the 582 or the 581 Gen 2, whatever they call it, becomes amazing glove that everyone's using and is super protective and all of this, then I will be like, okay, this awful glove was worth getting to that. But right now, this is just, it's not good. And it's like, there's no way I can recommend this to absolutely anybody. If you have to get an Eflex 6 set, get a 580. Don't get the 581. It also disappoints me that CCM abandoned the 600. Their design of it didn't work and their retail models were terrible and people hated them. But instead of like designing something differently, like this glove, which is a clone 600, but it's a different shape and it feels like a slightly different glove. And there's a goalie in NHL using this exact glove, and he actually tried this specific glove on before he ordered his set. So this was he actually wore this, which I thought was pretty cool. Instead of doing that and fixing like the 600 and keeping that going, they went this route, which I understand because everyone's buying a 580. But at the same time, like, it's not good. It's so bad. It's just like a rant of me just being, what are you doing, CCM? And this is the perfect example. CCM player department is amazing. Their skates are great. Their helmets are fantastic. We'll see that tech coming into the goalie world soon. Their protective equipment are fantastic. Their sticks are bleeding edge in terms of sticks. And then there's this on the other side of the aisle. Yeah, it's really disappointing. There's some things in here that are interesting. D3O supposedly in here somewhere. I'm guessing it's kind of right in here for extra protection. I didn't really notice any issues here. It was all right here, so maybe that's helping a bit. But like this backhand molded is kind of cool, but it's such a mistake. It's just so bad, and just get the other ones. Please don't buy this. Please don't buy this. But that's about it for this review of the CCM Eflex 6 catching glove review, specifically the 581. Let me know what you think about this. I'm sure people are going to love it. So thank you very much for watching this video. Remember to like this video, comment below on your experiences with the 591 or 581. Let me know what you think about them and how wrong I am. This video wouldn't have been possible without the help of Just Hockey, so check them out in the description to Instagram and to their website. Buy stuff there and let them know you came from me. I don't get a kickback or anything. It supports them and supporting me, letting me borrow their gear like this and talk about their gear like this. This will be greatly appreciated. Remember to subscribe to me on YouTube, follow me on Instagram and TikTok, links in the description. Check out the rest of the Eflex 6 line of gear. Reviews are very interesting on that. The block is great, so make sure you check those out as well. Thank you very much for watching, and take it easy.
You're watching HockeyReviews.ca.